Today, we're going to talk about biomarkers. We're going to learn what they are, we're going to learn how many there are, and how we can use them to determine a woman's fertile window. What's a fertile window? Let's talk about that first. So, fertile window is basically a point in time of every woman's cycle where she's going to be possibly fertile. This is going to be around the time of ovulation, and there are different signs that a woman's body gives, we call them biomarkers, to determine when this fertile window is. The fertile window usually only lasts about 100 hours per cycle. So using these biomarkers and learning how to chart them, observe them, you'll learn when your fertile window is. Biomarkers, though, are not only helpful to determine the fertile window, but they can also be really helpful in just understanding what your reproductive system is doing. Biomarkers are a reflection of a woman's reproductive hormones. So if her hormones are not acting in accordance with how they should be acting, how a healthy woman's cycle should be, then they can be really, really helpful to bring to a doctor to show, these are what my biomarkers are looking like, this is my chart, this is what they're looking like, and it doesn't look like I'm ovulating regularly. Biomarkers can show this. It can show when you are ovulating, and it can show if you're not ovulating. And ovulation, again, is the most important event in a woman's cycle. So if she's not ovulating regularly, that might mean there could be some hormonal imbalance. It can be really helpful to bring a chart to your OBGYN so that they can see on your chart what your biomarkers are doing, which is a reflection of your body. It's a reflection of your hormones. And so doctors can even see hormonal imbalances based off of observing your biomarkers every day and charting them. So as helpful as biomarkers are to determine the fertile window, especially if you're wanting to achieve or postpone pregnancy, they're also so helpful to determine that your body is just working the way that it should, that your body is healthy, that your reproductive system is healthy. So whether you are married or single, it is going to be so helpful for you to start charting these biomarkers, to start observing them, and to just be aware of them so that you can make sure that your body is working the way that it should. Today, we're going to talk about 5 different biomarkers. And we're going to look at how to chart them and how to observe them. We're also going to look at what methods use them, because not all of them are going to be used in every single method of charting. We're also going to look at which ones can predict the start and the end of the fertile window, and which ones only predict the end, which ones only predict the start, etc. So let's dive in. The first biomarker that we're going to go into, which is the most common across the board used in basically every method of charting, is going to be cervical mucus. We're just going to get that one out of the way because I'm just going to say mucus a lot in this episode. There you have it. Cervical mucus can be used to find the start and the end of a woman's fertile window of every cycle. And like I said, it's pretty much used across all methods. It's the tried and true biomarker. The way that a woman is supposed to observe her cervical mucus is just every time she goes to the bathroom, like normal throughout the day, we all go to the bathroom, hopefully a few times a day. When she wipes, she's just gonna look at the toilet paper and see if there's any cervical mucus on there. When you take a full NFP class, you'll kind of learn what types of cervical mucus there are, what to exactly be looking for, and how to determine the start and the end of the fertile window using the cervical mucus. But just so you know, that's biomarker number 1. The second biomarker that I want to go over is called sensation. Sensation can also be used to determine the start and the end of the fertile window. Sensation is really just a mental awareness of a general feeling in the vaginal area throughout the day. So maybe a feeling of moistness or kind of a runny, wet feeling. This would be considered a really fertile sensation. Sensations of pretty much just nothing or dryness around the vaginal area can be considered more of an infertile type of sensation. Again, I highly recommend taking an actual class to determine how to use these biomarkers. This biomarker isn't used for every method of NFP. It is used in the method that I currently teach, which is the Sympto-Thermal Method, which that method involves temperature, which is the third biomarker that we're going to look at. Temperature, or more accurately, a waking temperature, can be used to determine when ovulation has occurred. It can't be used to determine the start of a fertile window, but it is really helpful to determine when the fertile window ends. To take your waking temperature, you're just going to take your temperature in the morning, right when you wake up, before getting out of bed. This is going to be the base temperature throughout your day, and it's taken with a basal body thermometer. So this is still a thermometer that you can find at CVS, Walgreens, Walmart, anywhere you find regular thermometers, but it's to the 100th degree instead of just the 10th degree, so it's a lot more accurate. The way that this works is that when a woman's body has ovulated, right after, her temperature should rise. That's because right after ovulation, her hormone called progesterone is going to rise. Progesterone is actually a body temperature elevator. So that means that it's going to elevate a woman's body temperature after ovulation has occurred. Once a woman sees that temperature rise, that can help her confirm that she has actually ovulated and that she's going to be infertile for the rest of her cycle. This is personally my favorite biomarker, just with my own charting, because I just love to see that temperature rise to know, okay, I can confirm that I've ovulated, and it's just such a good feeling to know that that's happened. The fourth biomarker we're gonna go over is the cervix. Now, the cervix is actually an internal exam, so some women are not going to be comfortable with this, which is totally fine. But for women who are comfortable with this, it is an internal exam of your cervix. So the woman will feel for her cervix to determine if it's firm or soft, to determine whether it's higher or lower within her body, and also to see if there's any cervical mucus surrounding the cervix. This can be a really helpful check to determine the beginning and the end of a woman's fertile window, because her cervix is going to change throughout her cycle, which will show infertile or fertile signs. Just like temperature, cervix isn't used with every method. It is used with my method that I teach, which is again Sympto-Thermal. But for women that are familiar with this check and they've practiced it and they know what they're looking for, it can be a really tried and true check for them. The fifth biomarker and the last one we're gonna go over today are LH strips. So an LH strip is just a tiny strip that you would pee on once a day, and it tests the elevation of LH within your body. LH is short for luteinizing hormone. And this is a hormone that rises, it just spikes really high right before ovulation occurs. And this is actually the hormone that triggers ovulation. So LH strips can't necessarily predict the start of the fertile window just because they don't give you a whole lot of warning, but they can be really, really helpful, especially for women that are trying to get pregnant, because when LH is really high, that means, okay, probably within the next 12 to 36 hours, I'm going to ovulate. LH strips are going to often be used in the Marquette method of natural family planning. So if you're interested in learning more about that, you can check it out. I'll put the link down below. Okay, so there you have it. Those are the 5 biomarkers. Again, like I said, we have cervical mucus, sensation, waking temperature, cervix, and LH strips. These things can be really helpful to determine when you are fertile. Again, a woman's only going to be fertile for about 100 hours every cycle. So while looking at these biomarkers, observing them every day, a woman can figure out when her fertile window is. Remember that not every method uses all of these biomarkers. So depending on the method of charting that you choose to do, you may only be charting cervical mucus with one method. You might be charting cervical mucus, sensation, temperature, and cervix with the Sympto-Thermal method, or you might be taking a few bits and pieces of all of them. But make sure that you are taking an actual class with a specific method, no matter what it is, to make sure that you're doing these correctly, that you're observing your biomarkers correctly. You don't want to just take my word for it over this short video to see your biomarkers. You definitely want to make sure that you are getting educated by a certified instructor in a certified class. This, however, is just to show you what biomarkers are so that you can be more educated as you go into this journey of learning how to chart your cycle.